Hey everybody. So just finished watching or listening to Joe the Lawyer's podcast about um, making fifth edition more old school. And I've had a couple of thoughts on this, some of which I've actually attempted to do and wasn't quite a thing that people enjoyed, but these were sort of the rules that I came up with to make it more old school. So number one, I used just the basic rules. I don't even know if they're still available, to tell you the truth. I haven't looked at WotC's site in a bit, but so just the basic rules. Um, I did 3d6, not in order, but arrange them. So that means you could actually get negative numbers. Myself personally, I like playing not heroic, well, heroes obviously, but I enjoy playing PCs with flaws. The other stuff that I've done, just as far as the basic rules are concerned, no feats, so there's that. I do allow multi-classing. As far as cantrips are concerned, basically you can have cantrips except for any cantrip that causes damage. So that kind of ties hands a little bit in the game. The other thing that I've used from the DMG, there's sort of the change in the way short rests work and long rests work. So I think a short rest works out to like a week instead of, an hour or whatever. And a long rest is a month. So that, in the DMG, it's talking about games that have like high political intrigue or something you can use that for. But when you think about old school and how you can only kind of get one hit point back over a decent night's sleep, that really changes things. I've kept the standard death save mechanic. Um, that being said, if you survive, there's the lingering injuries table in the DMG, so that becomes part of it. So that it's not just I almost died and then I'm fine. You have something, right? Obviously, things like magical items have charges, much like Joe was talking about. So there's those that. Just trying to think of what else I've done to make it more old school. I mean, in all honesty, 5e is a great game just the way it is. And if you really want an old school game, there's a pile of old school games out there that you can play. Um, but there's a reason that 5e is so popular. So, um, people want to play that game, and if you want to feel like you're playing it a little bit more old school, you can, add those little bits and pieces. For me, I find just for world building reasons, I kind of like the idea of, the standard races, the standard classes, that kind of stuff. It just makes it easier, not so much for shoehorning things, but, explaining tieflings and dragonborn and warlocks and sorcerers and monks and but that's the way I kind of like doing it. I mean, it is what it is. As far as like XP is concerned, if you really want to be evil, get rid of whatever the 5e XP is, where you need like 150 to get to second level. Just change the whole thing to, like the second edition tables. And give XP for gold retrieved and brought to town and spent, and monsters killed and role playing. So kind of like second edition. That changes the dynamic a little bit. Myself personally, I kind of like low level campaigns anyway, so like 1 to 5. But that's going to extend that version of the game right there. But yeah, so those are my kind of, I think those are the basics of how I would and how I have ran fifth edition as more of an old school game. I mean, it's mildly evil, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of things in fifth edition that make players super tough, to the point of almost unbeatable in some cases. I guess the only other thing, just as far as an old school perspective is concerned, not everything in the world is on your pay grade. There are bigger, eviler things out there, and there's a possibility that you can run into them. Um, so there's not always going to be a very tailored challenge rating for your party. Um, Obviously, things like bringing retainers and things like that don't happen. Whoa, there we go. Lost my phone. They don't happen as often in fifth edition as they do in other games. With the sort of things that I'm suggesting, you probably would want to bring some with you. But anyway, I think that's kind of my thoughts on that right now. I'm sure I posted this on my blog at some point. Initiatives, just side. You can do it in sort of the BX version of missiles first, and then melee combat. I never say it correctly. However that works, movement, etc. But yeah, I find that's also just makes the game go quicker. For me, when it's individual, there's a whole bunch of like, well, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do, and now it's my turn. But yeah, I like quick combat. That's another old school thing. I know I played in a game one time where it was mostly combat focused, and it's a 5e game, and literally I would roll my dice, get up, and go for a wander and come back, and it was still not my turn. I don't know. There's more to, for me anyway, there's more to the game than just doing that. But that's total side note. But yeah, those are my rules. Anyway, yeah, if you want to listen to more, check out Joe's channel. I'll put a link in the comments below. Thanks.